internet of value at Ripple, we're thinking much bigger than just cross-border payments. It's kind of like Amazon with rare books in the early days, just this market happens to be a $10 trillion market.
We are at a historic turning point.
Said in the past that you are doing for money what email did for communication.
Moving the whole revolution forward.
Take on it.
There's trillions of dollars parked around the world. XRP.
Is there a possibility that Ripple could take over Swift one day?
Well,
welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, tough hour script. Let's get right into today's video. The OCC pretty much just gave us another pat on the back. And what do I mean by that? Well, it can't be dirt cheap. Welcome back to another episode. You got to listen to what this document says here because they're saying the same thing about supply and demand and having intraday liquidity. The information we're going to go over in today's video is going to be an eye-opener. Strap in for this one. The OCC, who are these individuals? Well, they've been around since 1863. So none of you guys are alive. And what they do is they regulate and supervise all national banks and federal savings accounts. And they've actually been around longer than the Federal Reserve. And I'll take whatever they're saying over the Federal Reserve any day because all they do is just print money out of thin air. In 2024, we are going to see a major shift in Ripple and also XRP being utilized by US banks. Not just one, but a handful of them. Ripple said US banks will want to use XRP after a partial victory in the SEC. Their lawyers said that hopefully this quarter will generate a lot of conversations in the United States with customers, and hopefully some of those conversations will actually turn into real business, he added. And real business means real money, real utility. And they're not going to just, right after XRP was declared not a security, they're not going to go jump and start using XRP. This is not how these guys move. These guys are major, high valuable corporations, and they like to do things on their pace, and they like to also do it on a strategic rollout. Listen to what the OCC said here. And the person that wrote this is by Michael Chu. Okay, he is the head of the OCC. Listen to what he said here. First is interoperability with a stablecoin across blockchains. And if you guys watched yesterday's video, you guys know how big this is going to get. The largest stablecoins exist on multiple blockchains. Ethereum, Solana, Tron, Algorand. These blockchains are not interoperable. Each blockchain has its own rail gauge, so to speak, because different blockchains are written in different coding languages and have different dependencies and cryptography, among other things. And listen to what he says here. We always say this on this channel. You need depth and you need deep liquidity. So-called intraday liquidity risk is a particular concern. In the context of traditional banking, intraday liquidity risk refers to the risk associated with differently timed payments. Say a bank makes a payment for $100 million at 9 a.m. and receives a payment of $100 million at 3 p.m. The bank's end-of-day liquidity position would be flat. On an intraday basis, however, the bank was exposed to $100 million of intraday liquidity risk had the 3 p.m. payment not come in. The bank would have had $100 million less of liquidity at the end of the day.
So I think that USDC has, 100% a place to play. I don't know that in its current construct, it can play at the institutional level. So when I talk about the $10 trillion that we're processing every night.
And what Ripple and XRP, what they're trying to solve is a multi-trillion-dollar problem. And logically, that will require a high market cap. And now listen to what Joanne Strobel-Court said here. Listen very carefully because this is very important. And I'm going to break down what she says.
And I would actually also add a fourth there, and I will tell you why I'm adding a fourth as well in a moment. But I would add predictability, right? So being able to know the cost, the speed upfront is very important, especially for a bank in the U.S., and I'll talk about that in 1 minute why that is. But I think that cost is also, from my perspective, the very difficult thing to achieve for many of the reasons that Franz said. We are in an open network. network in correspondent banking. We have multiple entities in multiple jurisdictions, often that have to process that payment. And along the way, it's very difficult in an open network to control that end-to-end cost experience.
We have the technology to allow every financial institution on the planet to settle with every other financial institution in a compatible jurisdiction in any asset in seconds for less than a penny.
We have multiple entities in multiple jurisdictions
to settle with every other financial institution in a compatible jurisdiction. Just think about this. Anyone who's made a payment knows that we're nowhere near that today. But imagine every financial institution settling with every other financial institution in seconds for less than a penny, any asset. That's fundamentally transformative. We have the technology to do it. Now we just need to figure out how to drive the adoption.
I will also say speed as well, for all of the reasons that we talked about. Batch processes still, we are not 24/7 from an RTGS perspective. We're not even 24/5, and quite often less than that, right? I know that there's a proliferation around the world right now. There's about probably 30 instant payment networks around the world that are live, but most of them, with only a few exceptions, are domestic only, right? So we do have some that go cross-border, but that's more the exception than the rule. So I think speed is difficult for that reason. But I will answer from maybe a little bit more from a US perspective, since I work for a US bank, and especially for a retail bank in the US. So the reason I added predictability is because in the US, banks that offer cross-border remittances for their clients, whether that's a retail or a small business, we have to comply with a regulation called Dodd-Frank 1073.
Sorry to interrupt you, Joanne, but we're going to have to pause you for a moment because we're going to go over and cover Dodd-Frank Act. This was implemented in 2013, okay? Everybody was on board. They're all utilizing this act. Look at this, Ripple Solutions Guide. This is back from 2016. I just want to show you how early we were in this. The messaging capability within Ripple Connect enables financial institutions to comply with US travel rule requirements. It also enables upfront fee negotiations to assist with regulation, e-prepayment disclosure obligations, Section 1073 of the Dodd-Frank Act. The direct two-way communication between sending and receiving financial institutions allow for the secure transfer of additional data about the payment, its sender and its recipient. That is a big deal. That is a big deal. Like I always say on this channel, since the inception of Ripple and XRP, their vision, they came in here to disrupt the financial sector, and their vision for XRP wasn't for retail holders. Like for Bitcoin is for everybody buys Bitcoin. But XRP's vision is to solve a use case utilizing the digital asset XRP, and XRP was created for the banks. It was a banker's coin. That's why even everybody calls it a banker's coin, because Ripple came in here trying to solve a main pain point in the financial infrastructure and created Ripple, the enterprise, and its digital asset XRP, which they leverage to do high scalable payments. And just talking about fees, because Joanne is going to get into that in a moment, take a look at Ethereum. This was just within the last 24 hours. The gas fees on the Ethereum network is ridiculous, $74 to move $740 is more than the legacy systems that the current banking system uses. And also to move $80, like we have a network fee of $79. This is massive. And we have another one. Again, this is all within the last 24 hours. We have another gas fee of $98 on Ethereum. This is just not going to work. We already know that. I sound like a broken record now, but I'm 100% very confident that you guys all know that Bitcoin and Ethereum will not be used as a payment system in the financial infrastructure. Joanne, take it from here.
And for that regulation, we need to provide our clients with a disclosure up front before we send the payment of what that payment cost experience is going to be end to end. If there is a conversion that happens and we know about it, what that experience is, what the rate is, how much will be delivered to the beneficiary, in what currency, and also when the beneficiary will receive that funding. So predictability is super important. You can't get to any of that without having some of these tenets. And I will also say you can't get to transparency unless you have some of these tenets in place. So I do think that cost, though, right now is the primary difficulty.
And the XRP ledger has many features and many more features to be implemented in the near future, like the AMM and the DID. Those are all going to be crucial for the XRP ledger, especially with the banks coming on board. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate every single one of you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. They're all in this together: SWIFT, R3, OCC, Federal Reserve, Ripple, the IMF, more than 300 banks and payment service providers, and the turning point is coming.
We started building RippleNet with the thesis that crypto liquidity would eventually be able to support robust global payments, large payments. RippleNet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch to ODL once the market was mature enough. And this is exactly what's happening. Flip the switch.
I think what we're building has, it's solving a real problem. And I think all of the tokens, my advice to anybody would be, understand the utility. If there's real utility and there's real value being delivered to a real customer, there will be value in the token.